That's right. I guess. Tonight's meeting is a joint subcommittee between the Neighborhood Subcommittee and the Finance Subcommittee to discuss the Community Preservation Act, surcharge charges, and funding recommendations. Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
On the Neighborhood Subcommittees, Council Gitchia.
Here.
Council Belanger.
Here.
Council Janess. From the Finance Subcommittee, Council Scott.
Here.
Council Dakota.
Here.
Council Janess.
So tonight we'll open it up to Yvonne Byers-Rose to start the presentations and invite whoever she would like to present their presentations to both committees.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
My name is Giovanni Baez-Rose. I am Assistant City Manager, Director of Planning, and also a member of the Community Preservation Council. This year, the council had, like every year that we've had CPA, far more requests have come in to the program than the city has the ability to fund. But I think the council does a lot of work to try to ensure that we're able to spread the available CPA funds throughout a number of really interesting and important projects that are happening in the city. Given the volume of ARPA projects that the planning department is currently managing, there were no submitted CPA requests for open space on behalf of the city this year. And so those 10% of those funds are automatically just going to be rolled over into the pot for next year. So there were no recommendations on behalf of open space for this year. But we did get a number for the other two buckets of funding. So community housing is an option funding that for these projects are for projects that are committing to creating affordable housing here in the city. So we had applications from Cross Street, which was a Coalition for a Better Acre project. They got a funding recommendation of $220,000 to work on a project that will create 9 affordable homeownership units. The CBA has not officially, I don't believe, written to us with this request, but we've gotten verbal confirmation from them that they anticipate pulling this project because they aren't going to be able to move that one forward. Mass Mills 4 received $125,000 a recommendation of $125,000. This project is the final phase of the Mass Mills development, which is essentially, there are two different buildings, the boiler building and the powerhouse building, but ultimately this last phase of Mass Mills housing will finish the entire complex. So it's pretty exciting to see this project underway, and hopefully with the restoration of this project, we'll also be able to get our Riverwalk back up and running again. Suffolk Place LLC received a recommendation of $200,000. Suffolk Place is the project that is essentially adjacent to what we know as Acre Crossing, right here on Merrimack and Market Street. Suffolk Place will be facing onto Market Street. This is another exciting opportunity that's going to create 33 income-restricted condos available to first-time home buyers in the city. The Acre Crossing project was able to lease itself up pretty quickly, and it's made a pretty dramatic change on the streetscape, and so we're really looking forward to seeing Suffolk Place do the same. And then the final development was an East End Club residence at West 4th LLC. That project got $20,000, and it will be creating, it's a 12-unit residential building, and 2 of those units are going to be income restricted. We do have representatives from the various groups that were funded here. So if any of the councilors have questions, I would kind of kick it to the applicants themselves if anybody's got questions on the housing projects.
I have a question concerning the East End project. If my memory serves me well, wasn't that $100,000 in funds, not 20,000?
It was 100 years. Requested.
Requested.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so I guess I'll have you move and ask Ms. White.
Oh, I'll move.
And why the cut?
Yeah, so that particular project, the staff memo indicated that some of the requests that the applicant had made were for ineligible expenses, and so we cut it down to an amount that we guaranteed were for all eligible expenses.
Was the developer aware of these changes prior?
They, I guess, misunderstood the directions that were available to them for the application itself. So I think they were surprised to understand that they had put in requests that were ineligible. But they're not finding out right now. They found out at the recommendation meeting.
At the recommendation?
Correct, yeah.
But they were told 100,000 from the onset?
No.
They were not?
No, absolutely not. So people request what they want to request, and at the meeting where the group discusses what we're going to sort of contribute to each of the projects is where we flush out the amount. And then that recommendation is brought forward to the subcommittee and through the council. So there are no pre-commitments.
As it pertains to the other projects, were their requested amounts reduced?
Everybody's.
Everybody's?
Nobody, I'm not sure anybody got, for the housing numbers, nobody got what they asked for. Everybody in the housing category tends to far exceed what we have available. I believe in the historic preservation section, there were 1 or 2 that got their full request, but it was less than $100,000 per request.
Per request. All right, thank you.
Yep.
Just before we go on, I just want to recognize Councilor Mercier is in the chamber, Councilor Yem, and also Councilor Noon. And I'll take back control of this, Councilor Dakota. You're supposed to wait for me to recognize you, but Councilor Belanger.
Thank you, Councilor.
I know you're excited.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, through you. Giovanni, you were a representative. I'd like to hear more about Suffolk Place. I'm very intrigued on these first-time home ownership, what we have such a need for here in the city. So I think this is a great project, and I'd like to ask a few questions.
Great. Steve Jonkis is here with the organization that's developing that project, so I'll let him answer those questions.
Mr. Jonkis, welcome. I might have known you'd be behind such a great project. So this is good stuff. This is what we're trying to achieve here in the city. We all know the cost of home ownership is out of reach for many low to moderate income individuals here in the city. And this is how they can achieve that. So briefly explain the construction project. I think you got 30 some odd units, and how do you determine that process? Who gets awarded these units, if you could?
So there are 33 units. 30 of them will be one-bedroom units. The other 3 would be two-bedroom units. Right now, they're priced at 80, 90, and 100% of area median income. And I can get into more detail about that if you want. The way buyers are selected, they go through a lottery process, and that's required by Mass Housing. It's one that's approved by CHAPA. With Merrimack Valley Housing Partnership as our partner in marketing the units at Acre Crossing, we're able to sell all 32 units to residents who were at 100% or below, but 50-some-odd% of those were at 80% or below. And 10 of those, I think, were below 60, which is a testimony to Mass Housing Partnership's ability to work with lenders and other sources of down payment assistance in order to get those people to qualify.
Great. I know. I appreciate the involvement of those other entities. Very important. We will need, with the construction costs, you need subsidies, Steve. I get it. And that's a wonderful partner. Now, is an emphasis on Lowell residents, Steve? What can we do legally? I know that's where I'd like to see it go, but how can we control that in any manner?
Well, most of the advertising and making people aware of the fact that the lottery is coming up would be done locally. But in terms of fair housing laws and Mass Housing's requirements, we can't.
It's open game. Okay. Okay. I got your rules. Okay. All right. The advertising would be local, so I guess a higher percentage, if you will, be Lowell residents. Okay, Steve. Look at that. Congratulations. Keep up the great work, and this is what we're looking for. More of this throughout the city, and this is great stuff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Ms. Rose?
Yeah, if there are no other questions for the housing projects, I can go through the list of projects that qualified under the third category, which for CPA is for historic preservation. I think it's important to note for all of the historic preservation projects that accept historic preservation CPA funds, there is a deed restriction, a historic deed restriction that's added to the property, very similar to how we do for housing projects. So there were, again, a number of projects that requested historic preservation funds that far exceed the amount that we had available, but the recommendations are as follows. So $125,000 for Novus Properties LLC. This is for the redevelopment of a project at 246.1 Market Street, which is a little hard to explain, but if you're at the Hamilton Canal Garage and kind of look to the side over near Canal Place, you'll see like remnant walls of a property, and this is one of the remaining sort of mill ruins at this point that's looking to be redeveloped into housing. He is anticipating creating 29 market rate units at this project. But again, the funds for this, because they're historic preservation, are actually restricted to the exterior of the building only. I think that's another thing that's important to note, that historic preservation funds are not for the interior sort of detail and finish work that's done in these projects. One of the projects that I had just mentioned, Councillor, that did get a full recommendation, $59,000 to Manny Cavallero from Cavallero's Restaurant. They were looking to do some window replacement to improve energy efficiency, and so that was a project that was requested, and given the amount, the committee selected to fully fund that request. There was another request from St. Anne's Church right down the street. This got a recommendation of $256,000. St. Anne's Church, they have quite a lot of brick and masonry work to do on the building itself. There were a lot of needs, and so the recommendation was to help fund a portion of their request. The second project that was fully funded was from Farley White Management LLC at $96,500. This is for the Wanalancet Mills property, and it's specifically for, what are they called? The smokestack, where the Christmas tree is hung. And so they recently had an assessment on the property and realized there was some masonry repair work that needed to be done on the smokestack. And given the fact that it's sort of become an iconic image for Lowell, the group felt that a full funding of this request was warranted. Another project that received $200,000 is 484 Merrimack Street. The applicant was New Royal LLC. That is actually right outside the door here, the former theater. I can't remember the name of it. The Royal Theater, there you go, New Royal. And so that is being renovated into 17 units, and then there's going to be, the first floor is going to have a retail space. Sophia's Greek Pantry that currently is on Market Street has been looking to expand, and so they're actually going to be tenants in this new larger space here on Merrimack Street. And then the final one was 32 Bridge Street. They requested $75,000. Well, they requested more than $75,000, but the recommendation was $75,000 to do repairs at their project, including windows, shutters, screens, and masonry. The project had a previous investment many years ago, but those repairs kind of have lived their useful life, and they needed some upgrades on that property. So those were the recommendations related to historic preservation. And again, there are representatives from various groups that were funded, so if there are any particular questions.
Councilor Dakota.
32 Bridge Street, who owns that?
It's a really long LLC name. TRS Gibson Trust, Tanya Perrin and Nick Saris.
Is that the guaranteed aluminum building?
No, it's if you're on Bridge Street before you get to, after Conlon's Liquors, but before you get to like Arthur's Diner, and you're heading towards Centerville, it's the building on your left.
Okay.
Where is it?
Those are the apartment buildings there, right?
Yeah.
And what kind of repairs are they doing there?
Brick masonry, windows, shutters,
And
because
what-
it's a historic building, so they have
And what was the amount?
75,000 even.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, there was an individual on Zoom regarding Royal Theater. If you want to let him in now.
Yeah, we can do that.
Go ahead.
Hey, everybody. I'm just available if you want me to give a presentation for 44 Merrimack Street. I can do that.
Okay.
Do you want me to give a presentation?
Sure.
All right,
Please
let
do.
me share my screen.
Go ahead.
Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Yeah, we're
Okay,
good.
great. Well, hey, everybody. My name is Patrick Ty. I, along with my brother Martin, who's actually in person there, we purchased this property and we're redeveloping this building into 17 units of housing. We're grateful for the CPA funds in order to do so. The site's 44 Merrimack Street, located across the street, as Giovanni just said. The building is a 4-story building, infill building. It was originally a rooming house built in 1912. A theater was added to the back of the building around the same time. The building's been vacant for over 30 years. It was deemed condemned by the city prior to our purchasing the building. The Royal Theater occupied the back of the lot. You can see here from the photograph, the remnants of the perimeter walls of the theater. The Royal Theater was once one of Lowell's grand theaters. And it's our hope to preserve and incorporate the artifacts of these walls into a garden that will pay homage to the theater. The building's listed on the National Historical Park and Preservation District Cultural Resources Inventory. We're working closely with the Historic Board, Steve Stowell, to rehabilitate the building in a way that's in line with the city's goals for Merrimack Street and for downtown Lowell. Some of the characteristics of the building worth preserving, as you can see, the front of the building has this nice glazed tan brick. The building has a pair of 3-story bay windows clad with metal, and of course the storefront that we want to bring back to its original condition. The detailing, the photos show the existing condition, or the condition it was in when we bought the project. Behind the building at the back of the site is a big open lot where the theater once stood. You can see the granite foundation walls of the basement of the theater and the massive brick walls that are the ground floor of where the theater was. Jack Kerouac wrote about going to the Royal Theater as a kid in his semi-autobiographical biographical book, Town and the City. He describes in great detail the interior of the theater space. He mentions the cherubs in the ceiling, the round Moorish Royal Theater pink and gilt and crystal crazy ceiling with a Sistine Madonna around the dull knob where a chandelier should be. And he goes in great detail describing his experiences of being at the Royal Theater. We plan on creating a garden in the back of the project where the existing walls will be present. This is a place where Kerouac fans, when they come to the city, they can come and they can imagine what it was like, or what it was like for Kerouac to be in that theater as a kid. Soon after we purchased the building, the interior collapsed. The 4-story brick masonry shell stood unsupported in a very unsafe condition. We immediately shored up the building, and we were successful in saving the building. After we got through that part, we went to reinforce the foundation, only to find out that it was essentially floating on silt. We had to underpin the whole foundation, and took a lot of effort and some local help. We were able to save the building, so we were happy with that. These just show the plans or the elevations of the building. We're adding on to the back to get us up to 17 units of housing. This is a typical floor plan. This is the ground level. As Giovanni mentioned, ground level will have a market and a cafe for Sophia's Greek, which is adjacent to this site. This is a view that shows the renovation of the storefront and what the building will be like once the new market and cafe are built. And then just to conclude, we're in the process of restoring this very special building. As I mentioned, we went to great lengths to save it. It cost us in excess of over $300,000 to do so. So we're in a little bit of a hole, but we still feel confident that we can make this project work, and we're really proud to be able to save it. And just to let you know that your CPA funds they've already been spent, but they will go to good use, and we're very grateful. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tai. Also in the chambers is Councilor Janess and also Councilor Chow. Does anybody have any questions? Councilor Scott.
I don't really have any questions, but I just wanted to comment, just to thank everybody that's investing in the city of Lowell. I think these projects are very impressive, all of them, and for our Community Preservation Committee for taking the time to do all of the screening work on this. There's some great historic preservation. We have the Greenwood Brothers store from 1872 being preserved, 1839 Mass Mills Boarding House, the Royal Theater. I mean, it's just very impressive work, and that's all. I just wanted to thank you all.
Councilor Yim.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to echo Councilor Scott regarding the CPA committee, and Giovanni worked very hard to allocate fund for all these worthwhile projects, particularly the one that you described here. They all located in the acre that where I represent, and it's a beautiful building. I love old building. My question to you, sir, is that would you be willing to take on the Smith Baker Center? It's also a beautiful building as well. So after you finish that, seriously, sir, thank you so much.
Councilor Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to alert and recognize the CPA, which the taxpayers in the city of Lowell give 1%. Is that what we do? And this 1% that we voted on, and not just it was a ballot question, and it went there, and the wisdom of our Lowellians went to the polls and voted yes, 1%. And you can see the fruits of that money because it's going out to people that are very good builders. I know a few, Mr. Marlowe here, tremendous builder that can take a rundown place and turn it into a jewel. But you know what we're doing? We're getting people off the street. We're getting people that couldn't probably afford a home, but now they're going to have a beautiful unit to call their own. We're creating housing for people that is much needed in the city. So thanks to everybody here that is developing property to put people off the street and into homes. And thank you to the voters for wisely voting yes on the CPA 1%. We kind of wonder, gee, it's coming out of our tax money, but look at the use that it's doing, and I'm so proud of everybody. This is called teamwork. So thank you to everybody that's involved with this.
I also want to recognize Councilor Robinson's also in the chambers. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak about their projects that we haven't reached out to yet? We'll give you the floor. We'll open it up for you if you want to speak about the history of your project or what you're doing, like Mr. Tai had the opportunity to do. And, with a motion by Councilor Scott, she would like to recommend the recommendations to the entire council, seconded by Councilor Janess. Councilor Dakota.
Thank you. To Ms. Baez-Rose, has all the funding been exhausted at this point?
Correct. So historically, since we've gotten the CPA funds, the CPC has fully allocated the funds that are available. So I did mention that there were no open space projects this year or last year. So the 10% that's required to be funded with each bucket, essentially that rolls over into the open space pot, essentially. So all of the available funds that we could allocate were allocated.
So if, hypothetically, if a developer did not get what they were hoping to get, could they apply for the following year to get back some of that funding?
So projects should not be like pre-spending the money. And so if people are welcome to reapply again for the same project, we've had that happen before, but it would need to be for work that like hasn't happened yet. So if it works for their project timeline and they could come back, they could do that. If they run into a scenario where they, for whatever reason, are delayed in their project development and, you know, the next cycle opens, they could reapply for funds and still hold on to that original allocation as well.
Okay. As Councilor Mercier noted, I know Mr. Marlowe's in the audience and has done some great development in the city, and I know that was kind of a little punch in the gut for what he was requesting and what he got. So I just want to make sure the funds were all exhausted. If not, if we could look at that again and help out Mr. Marlowe on some additional funding.
Yeah, unfortunately, all funds were fully allocated, so any recommended changes would require the CPC to revisit all of the recommendations.
Thank you.
Councilor Belanger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Giovanni Baez-Rose did answer my question on the open space funding. I'm glad to hear that that money gets rolled in. So that's double the amount for next year, correct? That hopefully we get applicants for, and so that's important too. But I'd just like to comment and thank all these developers for their profound interest in the city. We've got some outstanding developers here. I've known them. This council knows them all too well. They've done many projects throughout the city. And, you know, this covers the whole gamut of what we're trying to achieve in the city. We have affordable housing. We have market rate housing. We have first-time home ownerships. So we've got all the grounds covered, and I appreciate the wisdom and the hard work of the vetting authority, the CPA committee. Nicely done. And lastly, the increases the tax base, which is what we need to with all the school building projects we have going on. So it's a win-win for the community, for the city, for our residents. So great job by all involved. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councilor Robinson.
Thank you. Ms. Baez-Rose, does the city have any projects in the pipeline slated to use some of the open space monies that haven't been used coming up?
Yeah, for sure. So given that we have 9 ARPA projects and then a couple other non-ARPA projects, I think we're going to have like 11 or 12 open space projects that are under construction this construction season. So my staff capacity was essentially tapped out for this year, but we have a whole queue of projects in the pipeline ready for when we have additional capacity. So I do anticipate, I don't know if others will apply for open space funds. Organizations are able to apply for open space improvements as long as the open space that they're creating is going to be made available to the public. So we won't pay for like a private courtyard or private outdoor space for a project. But if there's a developer who has an interest in creating open space and are willing to allow that space to be made open to the public, then they're able to apply for the open space funds. But certainly DPD does have its sight set on CPA funds for next year.
Excellent, thank you. And I also would just like to thank, some of the developers that are here. Mr. Marlowe is part of the group that just in my district, we talk about establishing housing, increasing inventory. I think we saw 132 units of development happen in the past year, and Mr. Marlowe's played a big part of that too, so thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. If we could take a roll call on the motion that's before us on accepting and putting forth the recommendations from DPD and CPA.
Counsel Gitche.
Yes.
Counsel Belanger.
Yes.
Counsel Janess.
Yes.
Counsel Scott.
Yes.
Counsel Dakota.
Yes.
5 yeas.
Thank you all for coming out, and now we will move on to the next piece, which we will talk about Councilor Noon's motion on funding recommendations going forward. Councilor Noon, would you like to speak on your motion?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Madam Chairman, and member of the committee. Exciting. I remember back in 2019 when I proposed that, spoke to then Dick House, the registered deed, about CPA funding. And with his help, with this council, see a need for it. With the voter, we went, because of you have to put in the ballot to have the voter do that. Over the years, even before 2019, the city of Lowell lost a lot of money to the neighbor city and town because neighbor city and town, they are a member of CPA. They're smart enough to do that. And so we said, why not us? There's a big chunk of money every year, millions of dollars, that 1%, and then you get money from the state, registered deed. And a lot of these projects, you're going to have to do it anyway. More housing, affordable housing, open space, historical building, all those stuff that the city will have to do it anyway. Why not do it with more money, with more resource? And that's why that 1% of Rita is correct. Exciting. Every year since then, if you ask Assistant City Manager Giovanni Baez-Rose and the chair of CPC, Adam Backey, and other, it's exciting time, and there's more work to be done. And therefore, a couple months ago, I asked maybe if we just increase it 0.5%, maybe there's more money to do a lot of things that we need to do anyway in the city. So maybe the voters see a need for it. Because look, we still have housing crisis, right? We've been building more housing with the help of the developers and whatnot. With nonprofit, we work together to do that. We had a lot of historical building that need, windows and stuff like that. We have open spaces. Yes, we have ARPA money spending right now, doing well. Plus, we have the 10% of the open space that we have not used for the last 2 years from CPC and CPA, as Joanne Byros has indicated. But there are more housing. There are historical buildings that need to be taken care of. So, look, and mind you that it's also I believe we do have some clause there at the vote that we did before, commercial. Maybe there's a way to look at that too. Right now, it's not time to raise that 0.5%, maybe looking at those exemptions for the commercial, work on that as well. So there's a lot of possibilities. So I leave it to the committee to dive into it, and I hope the committee see a need to do so. Thank you.
Councilor Yam.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If that's a formal motion by Councillor Noon, I would second that, but we may
Neither one
need
of
to
you
go
are on
back.
the committee, so you can't make motions.
I understand. I'm just saying if a formal motion will, if I could refer that to the Housing Subcommittee to kind of dive into detail.
It would have to be done by somebody who's on either one of these committees. You can do that as a counselor on a Tuesday night if you'd like.
Yes.
In a little bit later time.
We will, I'm just,
Councilor Marcia.
He makes up his own rules.
thank you.
Councilor Scott.
Sorry. Can we possibly hear from Giovanni, I guess, about what our options are, how the process would have to work, going back to the voters, et cetera? I'm sorry.
Let's go to CFO Baldwin.
I didn't even know he was back there.
I'm hiding back here, Councilor. Thank you, Madam Chair and Mr. Chair, and thank the committee for their work and the Community Preservation Committee. This has been a wonderful funding source for the city, so that first and foremost. But the motion that was responded to by DPD, I worked with my colleague, Ms. Baez-Rose, on doing an analysis, and we spoke with the assessor on some potential options. So to give the subcommittee, the council, the Community Preservation Committee some parameters to consider. So first and foremost, any changes to the surcharge would require first a vote of the council and then second another ballot referendum. So we have to go through essentially the same process. That is the same if any of the exemptions were changed. So if the council were so inclined as to either increase the surcharge, make changes to the exemptions, or any combination of the two, that would require a vote of the council and a referendum to be approved by the voters. So in considering what that might mean for the revenue, we've contemplated a few scenarios for consideration. So as was mentioned before, originally when the CPA was adopted, there was a 1% surcharge on local property taxes and 3 primary exemptions. Number one, the first $100,000 of residential property value was exempted for all residential properties. Number two, all commercial properties were exempt from the Community Preservation Act. And then number 3, the low income or low to moderate income senior homeowners were exempt from the surcharge. So in considering what revenue may be generated with any changes, scenario 1, so a 2% surcharge, but keeping the $100,000 exemption would yield about $2.3 million. So for purposes of comparison, we bring in about $1 million in surcharge revenue. That qualifies us, and this changes year to year, to $200,000 to $300,000 in state match. It is my understanding that in order to, so the first round of the state match is for everybody, but it's weighted. To get into the second and third rounds, you have to have at least the 3% surcharge. So you would need to have the 3% to qualify into those second rounds of match. If the council were to approve a 3% surcharge, but keep the $100,000 exemption, that would kick us up to about $3.4 million in annual revenue. A 1%, keeping the 1% surcharge but eliminating the exemption would increase the revenue to about $1.4 million. 1% surcharge and the commercial with $100,000 exemption. So this would be bringing commercial properties into the assessment would be about $1.3 million. And then finally, and I know there's throwing a lot of numbers at you, we'd be happy to provide this in a report for the council. The residential 1% plus the commercial, doing away with the commercial exemption, that would bring in about $1.6 million in revenue. So about $670,000 in new revenue for the Community Preservation Act. I hope that's helpful, and I'm happy to answer any other questions. Thank you, Madam Chair and Mr.
Councilor
Chair.
Janess.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a motion then that we get that formal report to the full council, and then we can decide if it should go to a particular subcommittee or what we want to do with it. So I'd like to make a motion to request that report.
Seconded by Councilor Scott. Councilor Robinson.
Thank you. Through you to the CFO. So to trigger the second or third round, you mentioned communities have to have a total of a 3% surcharge to qualify for the second or third round match on the state side.
That's correct, Councilor.
Would they consider separating it out? So we're already at a 1% for our non-commercial, correct? If it was the will to go to, say, a 1.5% on our non-commercial, and then if we also carved out a 1.5% on commercial, would that satisfy the 3% requirement?
I'm happy to look into it. I think I understand what you're asking, and I'm not sure that would work, but happy to look into it. We can reach out to our our contacts at the state to discuss that, but I think it's an all or nothing type of proposal written into the statute, but happy to get some more information for the council.
Okay, yeah, because, instead of grouping it, saying, okay, commercial and residential are at the 1.5, if we carved it out specifically, residential 1.5, commercial 1.5, if they would consider that 3%.
Happy to look into that.
Thank you.
Councilor Scott.
Just one question. When you're talking about 3%, I don't know what the average tax bill is in the city of Lowell. Like, how much would that equate to per household? You probably know the average tax bill.
The average tax bill is somewhere in the neighborhood of $5,600 for the average single-family home in Lowell, but to hazard a guess on what the surcharge would, it would be, well, I suppose 1% of that, $500.
So $150 a year,
Yes.
$160.
Approximately, but let us include that information in the report if that's acceptable to you, Madam Chair.
Please.
So there's a motion on the floor. Mr. Clerk, roll call, please.
Council Getchia.
Yes.
Council Belanger.
Yes.
Council Janess.
Yes.
Council Scott.
Yes.
Council Dakota.
Yes.
And that was the last item
Motion to
on
adjourn.
the agenda, and motion to adjourn by Councilor Scott, seconded by Councilor Janess. Thank you all for coming out.